Hello. Okay, so here's a video about my thoughts about YNAB. By the way, best thing ever. Probably not best thing ever across like anything, but for budgeting and for keeping track of your finances, way better than Mint. Way better than Mint. I tried YNAB so many dang years ago. I actually don't know how to log in in my password manager. So at some point I tried it out, and I'm pretty confident that what I can probably say around why I didn't stick with it was because I just couldn't keep my spending, to a level where it's like 30 days plus between the time you get your money and the time you spend it, which YNAB really pushes pretty darn hard. If you're not at that point, I actually feel like it's hard to use, which I'll explain here in a minute. But I've been using Mint for years, and I've not been using it to budget. I've actually been using it to just have a singular way to look at all of my, or most of my accounts. There's always banks or credit cards that just don't want to support any kind of integration, or they're really awkward, or it breaks all the time, or you keep having to re-authenticate. So there's always those, and that definitely makes it all just a little bit harder. But I would use Mint not to do budgeting. I would actually use Mint to be just kind of like, where are all of my accounts basically all at one time? Okay, cool, I owe $3,800 on this card, I owe, $2,500 on this card, I've got $6,000 in this, this account, I've got, $2,000 here, blah, blah, blah. And so rather than having to open, like 10 different apps, Amex, Discover, Cap One, Chase, Citi, Target card, but, like all of these different things, it's like, oh, I should go to Mint, and I just kind of look at all of them, or almost all of them at once. And that was really nice. That's actually what I used Mint for. I didn't use it for any budgeting. My budget was, and a little bit still is, but was actually an Excel file or spreadsheet. And I'd have like at least 6 months, somewhere between 6 and 9 months planned out. And then I would actually have like all of our our Apple charges, our subscriptions and Apple Cares and whatnot, and then all of our automated stuff, which all went on my Verizon Visa, and then all of our allowances, for our kids, for ourselves, any like car loans, and then at the bottom I'd sort of say, okay, cool, and my main bank account is at this credit union, and this is the income coming in, and this is how much I have to spend on on allowances, some of which are linked up above in case I need to decrease an allowance if a kid's like, oh, I want a new phone. Cool. For the next 2 years, you're paying $20 a month, for that new phone, or whatever it is. And so then, it changes how much I have to pull out, because in the end, I'm actually paying, some for it. And then I'd have, my bills that are directly out of that account. At the very bottom, it's, your theoretical net profit, which the vast majority of the time is profitable. And so I felt pretty comfortable. I was like, hey, this is working. Does it match reality? No, probably not. But, in the end, there's little things, here or there, or one-off little things that I'm like, that's fine. I'm okay with that hitting my profit margin as a family, because in the end, I know that I've got it. But, and to be honest, I think that was working reasonably well from a day-to-day perspective. What it wasn't helping me do was really actually build long-term financial health, because there was no push through a spreadsheet, at least not the one I had built and refined over years, because it literally, I think if I went back into the history of it, I've converted it from Excel to Google to Excel, and I think right now it's still on Excel, but I've probably been using that for well over a decade. In fact, I know I have been. So at least a decade minimum I've been using that, especially, and then just adding new columns at the end, deleting the columns when the old month is gone, with this idea that any profit is basically just being dumped into savings at the end of the month, or I'm just still reusing it, in the YNAB world you would call ready to assign. effectively, except I just never assigned it. And in fact, one of those few times when I did need to, I sort of have like negative and positive amounts to show how money was flowing from one paycheck or 1 month to another, so that it would all balance out. But with YNAB, I'm noticing something very different. Actually, a few things very different. One, with YNAB, I check it every single day because, of course, it wants you to not log your transactions really, but approve and categorize your transactions. It's really approving that you have to do, because, of course, once you have something for a vendor once, if it doesn't do it the second time you see it, it'll definitely do it on that third time. Where it's like, oh, you've been to Einstein Brothers a couple times, and both times you logged it as restaurant and food, or whatever your category is. I'm just going to kind of auto assign that category, but I want you to approve this. But what's cool about that is because I approve all these transactions, means I know that they're going through. I'm much more aware of them, because you know what I'm not going to do? Check every single bank account every single day to know what's going on. I'm sorry, I don't have time for that. Especially because occasionally there's apps by some banks that make authentication more difficult than they really need to, and sometimes they want to forget who you are, and then, or, oh, you added a fingerprint to your iPad, or you added a face to your Face ID. Okay, sorry, you have to log in all over again. And I'm like, why? Why is that? You realize I just go to my password manager, which uses that Face ID or Touch ID itself. They don't make me reset. So if somebody did put their face in, which they would have to have my password to the phone, they could get into my password manager and copy paste it anyways. But anyways, but with YNAB, to get back to that point, with YNAB, I pull it up every single day. Maybe not so much on Sundays, I will say. Not on Sundays. Mostly because Sundays is kind of my chill day. But I can't say that I'm not, actually, even on Sundays. But I pull it up. Like, I just pulled it up this morning. I just had to do a blood draw. And I'm a little late for work. So, certainly, normally I get up and, after getting myself ready, often on the way out of the house, I'm actually pulling up YNAB. But if I'm not then it'll be very early in the morning otherwise. And I'm just like, oh, what new transactions are there? Oh, what things do I need to approve or categorize? And so then you go in and you see your accounts. You don't entirely see the budget per se, unless you have to go reallocating things, because you just overspent. My budget is still pretty new. I just started this, actually, did I start this within the last month? I did. In fact, actually, I think my trial is about to be over. I think, actually. I need to go check that now. Because I actually started mid-November. Because starting in the middle of the month with YNAB is still a little weird. Yeah, start at any time, sure. But they don't automatically support, hey, let's just set it up or backdate to the 1st. And re-import all your stuff back to the 1st. Because they'll just like, oh, this is your current balance as of when you opened your account with us. And so therefore it's the 15th, and this is when we're going to do it. Well, but this month's budget then is kind of a throwaway if it's middle of the month. Why? Because I can't really assign things. I'm sorry, but my expenditures are not linear throughout the month. They vary based on a lot. And I think it would actually make a lot of sense for them to say, hey, do you want to backdate to the 1st? We're going to go check to make sure we can pull that data in from each of your banks that you've set up so far, at least. Or, maybe what they would have to do, because I think you do that at the beginning of the budget, is they'd say, hey, do you want to start this in the middle of the month? In which case, your budget is going to be partial and not completely accurate, or go back to the 1st. But this means that either we have to be able to pull in from that bank back to the 1st, which it seems like all of my credit cards and I just change the starting balance back to the 1st. Whoosh! Suddenly, transactions come in, and then I have to reverse them out of that starting balance to get what the starting balance would have been at the beginning of the first of the month, which is fine. But it's kind of weird that it doesn't offer a way to just do that automatically. You know, or you add an account and it's like, cool, I'm checking. Hey, you know what? They won't give me historical transactions. They will literally only give me what you have right now to date. So any charges you've made on this, any payments you've made on this won't reflect in your budget. Or if you want to give me the transactions you've had since the first, I'll reverse those back out of that balance and give you an accurate starting balance. I really wish they'd do that, because December is really the first month where I have an actual budget that I can be like, I can work against this. But that being said, I am so much more aware of my spending, of how much I have left in my budget line items, than a spreadsheet or Mint ever gave me. I'm really, really liking that. I do wish it was easier for me to make copies of my budget, like actual historical copies, because I might want to play around with something, and then be able to destroy that play around. Like, oh, you know, what if I had put more money towards this? What if I had spent less money here? And that's the sort of thing, that's a what if thing you can do easily in a spreadsheet. Just make a copy of the spreadsheet and then go playing with your heart's content with the numbers until you're like, okay, cool, that's what that might have been, or this is what it might be. How, you know, like as I do this throughout the rest of the year. And while I get YNAB is really all about roll with the punches, which is really, reality is king. Like, your plan is great, but reality is king. I get that, but it'd be nice to play what ifs, either in the past or in the future. Future would probably be a lot harder to implement in a way that would make sense, but the past might. Or being able to make a copy of a budget and give a copy to my kid and be like, how much did you go through this budget? What should find $500 a month in savings that you think we could have made? And by the way, I want that this weekend. You know, like, I'd love to be able to do that, because my kid, he's 17, about to turn 18. He's going to go to college. We just accepted out of college. I now have a college costs line item that has $0 of money in it. And I've already spent money. And so, you know, now I have to adjust my budget. But I'd love to be able to say, hey, here's a copy of my budget. You know, you don't get to see the new stuff. I don't want you messing with the new stuff. But here's a copy you can manipulate. But that awareness is really great. And then the other thing is that it is helping me to make sure I pay down any long-term debt, you know, a HELOC or whatever. You know, I've got one credit card, you know, that's large. It's really large compared to what I'm comfortable with. And so it's like, okay, cool. You know, you can, how much do you want to put in each month? And okay, cool. Well, then you're going to pay it off by this point, or when do you want to pay it off by? Can you do that in a spreadsheet? You can, but boy, it honestly takes a little bit of time, you know? It's a lot of playing around and calculating and using web pages to, you know, bankrate.com and stuff like that to, you know, try to figure out, okay, cool, like what if, whereas in YNAB, it's like, it's a slider, or you're just playing with dates and numbers. I do like how also on the long-term loan stuff, the assets like mortgages or HELOCs or whatever, it actually gives you a burn down chart of, well, it's not not a proper burn down, it's a line graph, but it's a line graph of this is how much your balance is going to be as you're paying it down based on our current plan. I like that. I really kind of wish they could do that on the credit card side. You know, it almost gamifies it a little bit to be like, man, I want to push this number up as high as I feel like I can. But it would also, I think, be kind of cool if in some sort of future way it could be like a, hey, if you change your allocations, you know, you want to change your allocations a little bit, some of your credit cards are going to be paid off sooner than others. Or encouraging people to be like, okay, cool, based on your credit cards, your percentage rates, your minimums, these are some suggested scenarios for paying off those credit cards. You know, whether it's smallest first, just to gain that momentum, or largest interest rate first to, you know, have a huge impact. Again, I don't know how exactly they do that. One of the cool things I really see about YNAB is that they keep improving their product constantly. There's new features that I'm like, that just came out a month ago? I'm using it. I think it's a natural part of the product. Oh my gosh, how were you using this before? But here's the thing, YNAB's been around for 10 years. And in fact, longer than that, isn't it? I feel like YNAB's been around for a really long time. And because I hear people talking about how to use it for so dang long. like, it's cool that it is where it's at. It's also really cool that they keep adding new things. But I also asked myself, what was it like to use it 5 years ago? Was it as good as it is now? Like, would I be as excited about it as I am now? And I think that because my core experience is really that daily awareness of spend and a budget, like how well am I adhering to that budget, it probably would be pretty darn good, even if I had used it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. But now I make enough money that I can pay off long-term debt. I'm not having to build up a whole bunch of long-term debt most of the time until I have to start paying for college. But even then, it'll help me build a plan. Okay, cool. Your minimum is this. If you pay this much, you're going to pay it off this much sooner. You know, I'm really, really excited about that because it helps that awareness of like, where are you at financially? If I were to be asked, what's the best thing about Mint? Like, what do you like about Mint more than YNAB? Mint can integrate with Apple Card. Now, in theory, Apple Card's probably going to be going away here soon. Don't really know for sure officially, but that's the rumor, and it's like, okay, fine. I think I've got like, what, $1,800 on my Apple Card, and, you know, if I had to pay that off right now, yeah, I can. No big deal. But I've got bigger fish to fry, to be perfectly honest. And that's also just personal spending. That's not family spending. So over the next several months, I'll finish paying that off from my allowance that I get from the family. But it doesn't do Apple Card at all, and so I can't track my Apple Card stuff in YNAB, which is a little disappointing. I kind of wish they could, even if it was just like a PDF statement thing, and you just did it at the end of the month, which is why it kind of doesn't make sense, because YNAB is all about what's going on right now and be able to track it without having to like change history, so to speak. Like you can change history, and it will in fact mess with your present and your future. But it's not really the right way to use YNAB. But nonetheless, it would be nice if it integrated with Apple Card. I think there was one other card. I think it was, I've got a Sleep Number account with Synchrony. And I don't think that they support the Synchrony Bank stuff, like the consumer credit line side of things. Although, I don't know, maybe they do, because I think my Verizon card's in it, which is also Synchrony, that's the actual bank. But I feel like my Sleep Number was the one that couldn't come in. Because there isn't like a generic Synchrony thing, which is kind of weird, because actually when I log into the Synchrony consumer credit side, I see both Verizon and Sleep Number. So I don't know. That's an oddity. Oh, I had my turn signal on, but I'm actually not turning here. Next light. Anyways, I've been really excited about YNAB to the point where I added my spouse to the thing so that they can look and go, at least have an awareness. I'm the one who really does most of the spending. And so, you know, I always try to involve them in where are we at? What's the budget look like? Where are we at financially? But to be perfectly honest, anytime there's a large purchase, I'm always involved. I doubt that some year for a holiday gift, I'm going to get a car or, you know, a new laptop or something like that without me somehow knowing. And especially now with YNAB, because of course I see it all. But the other person I've added to is actually my oldest son. Although once he goes off to college, he'd be able to get the college version for free. Well, it's not college version; it's just a subscription for free as a college student, which I think is awesome, by the way. Freaking awesome! I wish I'd had something like this in college. Maybe I would have made better financial decisions. Maybe. By the time I was a full adult, paying bills and all of that, it was kind of almost too late, because my financial habits were already kind of set. And we got him off to a good start as a kid, because I owed him for not being able to pay him out his allowance for so many months, that at one point we gave him $500. I'm like, I owe you this because you were supposed to have gotten it. And that actually taught him how to save. But I've told him, I want you to use YNAB. I want you to feel feel comfortable that as you start spending, as you start adding bills as an adult, you're using that to track your income, using it to track your expenses. Because yeah, it's really stupid simple now. And then I show them my YNAB and I'm like, it won't be simple. And by the way, this is not much simpler at 25 than it is, let's just call me mid 40s. Like it's not that much. I really don't have that much more going on. I just have some more credit cards and a few more bills, but not that many more bills, to be honest. It's just the numbers get bigger. And once you have kids, the expenses, get a little bit more numerous, but you're putting them on credit cards. So, then managing that and tracking those expenses, if you're used to it by then, it's a lot easier to keep track and keep yourself on target to do these long-term saving things. I wish I'd been using this for the last several years. Mint is really what caused me to say, I need something new. Because I'm not really using Mint properly. I wasn't really using Mint properly before. My spreadsheet wasn't actually helping me to save properly long-term in any kind of goal-oriented way. Reality didn't really match that budget per se. I wasn't tracking expenses. I was really just tracking how I thought I would spend my money, not how I was actually spending my money. And so, did I theoretically have, $500 of profit some paycheck? No, probably not. Why? Because I was probably spending it. But that budget had that budget spreadsheet had no idea that's what I was doing. It just said, this is the plan, and then I was basically just using that profit margin kind of however I wanted. And sometimes it was real. And in fact, it was real for quite a while, because slowly that bank account balance just keeps kind of going up as a nice base. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, it's working, and it looks like it's working. Well, in actuality, if I'd been doing it the YNAB way, it would have probably been much better. Like twice as much, I think, really, to be honest. So definitely, I'm happy with YNAB. I'm excited to keep using it. It has made me so much more aware of what's going on. And I feel better about it too. I cannot remember, I'm spacing right now, the name that Mint, there's Mint and then there's this other product, both owned by Intuit, which gives me a little bit of like a yellow flag. It makes me a little nervous that a financial company that helps do taxes and all these other things also does help keep track of all of my stuff. And I'm like, how are they using that data? Even if they're not selling that data, are they selling knowledge of that data? Are they selling access to people who have certain data points? There's a lot of ways to get around those data privacy things that companies have figured out. So that makes me nervous, whereas YNAB is its own company. They make money off of building this stuff and honestly just being the best at it. That gives me a lot more confidence that, if they see that, I'm going to Starbucks every day. I'm actually about to go to Starbucks. But, they're not going to sell that to people and go, oh, hey, do you want to market to people who go to Starbucks, daily, weekly, monthly, only during, pumpkin spice season? Because that's basically the season I go to Starbucks. Otherwise, I just brew my own coffee. Do you want to, advertise to people who have X number of cards, or X number of credit limits? I don't have to worry about that with these guys because they're independent. There is no advertising. It is a paid service, and I love that. It's not even that expensive. I am very confident that this thing gives me an awareness that is easily well worth that, even if it wasn't going to help me save up. Even if somehow it did not help me directly save money somehow, just that, that cost, it's pretty trivial. And by doing that, I know what's going on literally every day without having to dig through 10 different apps. And then I do have a little widget on my phone that says like, hey, this is where you're at with these budget line items. And because I'm using it every day, and it prompts me every day to like tag my things and all, which Mint never did for me. Maybe it was just a setting I set wrong, but it never prompted me to do anything. YNAB is basically like, oh, nope, almost every day you got a notification. I need you to come in here. I need you to approve something. And by doing that, I am so much more aware of what's going on. So I'm excited to move over. Credit Karma. The name of that other thing is Credit Karma. And that, to me, is an odd name, because Credit Karma, I thought, was some, we can get you a copy of your credit report service. Like, that's what I thought Credit Karma was. That's the commercials I remember. I don't remember them being rebranded into something new. And to be honest, the name, I would probably have merged that into Mint and not Mint into that. Like, the branding wise, it's weird. Why would I use something called Credit Karma to track my expenses and build a budget? It's sort of a little weird. And then, like I said, it's a little bit of a yellow flag. It's like, you're selling me access to my credit report. How confident am I that you're not selling knowledge of data with certain data points? It makes me nervous, because Intuit is a very big company, and they have to they have to show profit to their shareholders. And yeah, you can say the same thing about YNAB. They're a for-profit company. I'm pretty confident in that. Okay, cool, and that makes sense. But I'm sorry, they're not that large. It's a lot harder to do no evil the larger you get. I think is a very true statement. Not to say that small businesses aren't always good, but I think all large businesses end up having to be evil because they have to answer to the shareholders. YNAB seems to be a lot smaller, and they really just do one thing, and I like that they do just one thing, because it means I don't need to worry about them saying, oh, let's use that over here where we can also profit and benefit, in other ways. So anyways, this is a bit of a ramble video. I will actually probably upload this to my YouTube channel, which I never put content on, but I might start making more content, probably not just about YNAB, but probably other things, and we will see where that goes.